Hungry black boy gave away his only meal. The next morning, a millionaire knocked at his door. He was hungry. Not just the kind of hunger that comes after missing breakfast, but the deep, hollow ache of someone who hadn't had a real meal in days. The boy clutched the small paper bag in his hands, the only food he had managed to buy with the few coins he had saved. It wasn't much, just a sandwich and a bottle of water, but for him, it was everything. His stomach growled as he sat down on the worn-out park bench, ready to take his first bite. That's when he saw them. An elderly couple sat on the bench across from him. Their clothes were faded, their faces drawn with exhaustion. The old man held his wife's trembling hand, whispering words of comfort, though it was clear he himself was weak. They weren't just tired, they were hungry. The boy noticed the way their eyes lingered on his sandwich, the way the woman tried to hide her discomfort as her stomach growled. For a moment, the boy hesitated. He thought of his own hunger, of the long nights he had gone to sleep with nothing but water. This meal was supposed to be his relief, his escape from the gnawing emptiness inside. But as he looked at the frail couple before him, something stirred in his heart. He knew that hunger. He knew what it meant to feel forgotten. Quietly, without saying a word, the boy stood up. He walked over, his hand shaking slightly, and held out his food. The couple stared at him in disbelief. "For you," he whispered, forcing a smile even as his stomach twisted in protest. Tears welled up in the old woman's eyes as she accepted the food. The old man's lips trembled as he tried to thank him, but no words came out. The boy didn't wait for gratitude. He just nodded, turned back toward the empty street, and walked away. He had given up the only meal he had. But what he didn't know was that this single act of kindness would set into motion something that would change his life forever. Because by the next morning, there would be a knock at his door, from a man who could change everything. The boy's name was Daniel. At just 12 years old, life had already forced him to grow tougher than most kids his age. He lived in a small, crumbling apartment on the edge of town, where peeling paint and broken stair rails told stories of long neglect. His mother worked 2 jobs, cleaning houses during the day and waiting tables at night, just to keep the lights on. His father had been gone for years, leaving behind little more than a memory and a few photographs that Daniel barely recognized. Despite the hardships, Daniel carried himself with quiet resilience. He wasn't the type to complain. When his classmates teased him for wearing second-hand clothes or bringing the same peanut butter sandwich for lunch every day, he just smiled. What they didn't know was that many nights, even that simple sandwich was a luxury. Sometimes, he went to bed with only tap water in his stomach, trying to convince himself it was enough. That afternoon in the park, when Daniel handed over his only meal to the old couple, it wasn't the first time he had gone without. Sacrifice had become part of his life. He was used to putting others first, whether it meant helping his mother fold laundry late into the night or giving up his turn at the small heater so his younger sister could stay warm. What he didn't expect, though, was how deeply this small act of kindness would affect him. As he walked home, his stomach empty but his heart strangely full, he replayed the moment in his mind. The look in the old woman's eyes, that mixture of gratitude and disbelief, stayed with him. For the first time in a long time, Daniel felt like he had done something that mattered. Yet, he also wondered if anyone had noticed. Acts of kindness, he thought, often went unseen, swallowed up by a world too busy or too indifferent to care. Back at the apartment, his mother greeted him with a tired smile. Her uniform smelled faintly of cleaning supplies. Her hands raw from scrubbing floors. "Did you eat, sweetheart?" she asked gently. Daniel forced a nod. He didn't want her to worry. She already carried enough weight on her shoulders. He slipped into the corner of their small kitchen, where a single flickering bulb buzzed overhead, and quietly did his homework while his sister hummed in the next room. But as night fell and the city lights flickered in the distance, Daniel lay awake on his thin mattress, unable to sleep. His stomach still ached, but his mind was restless. Something about the old couple stayed with him. Who were they? Where did they come from? And why did it feel like this small act was only the beginning of something bigger? The next morning arrived like any other. The sun crept through the cracked blinds, painting stripes of light across the worn floor. His mother rushed out early, leaving a quick kiss on his forehead before heading to her first job. Daniel got dressed in his usual faded shirt and carefully patched jeans, preparing to face another day of school. He was tying his shoelaces when it happened. 3 loud knocks at the door. Daniel froze. Hardly anyone visited them, especially this early. His sister peeked out from behind the curtain, her eyes wide. "Danny, there's a man outside," she whispered. Cautiously, Daniel pulled open the door. Standing before him was a tall man in a tailored suit, polished shoes glinting in the morning sun. He was older, with salt and pepper hair and sharp but kind eyes. Behind him, a sleek black car idled at the curb, a driver waiting patiently. Everything about him spoke of wealth, of power, of a world far removed from Daniel's. The man looked down at the boy, then smiled faintly. "You're Daniel, aren't you?" Daniel's heart raced. He nodded slowly, unsure what to say. The man's voice softened. "I believe you met someone yesterday. An elderly couple in the park." Daniel's breath caught. How could this stranger know about that? The man continued, his expression unreadable. "They told me everything, and I think it's time we talked." In that moment, Daniel realized his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, his mind scrambling to make sense of the stranger before him. The polished car, the perfectly pressed suit, the confidence in the man's stance. It was all so foreign, compared to the cracked sidewalks and peeling paint of his neighborhood. "May I come in?" The man asked gently. His tone wasn't demanding, but there was a weight in his voice that made Daniel instinctively step aside. His sister clung to his arm, watching silently as the stranger entered their modest apartment. The man looked around, the worn couch with its frayed edges, the flickering bulb that struggled to light the room, the faint smell of detergent clinging to the air. He said nothing at first, just nodded slightly, as if confirming what he had already suspected. Finally, he turned back to Daniel. "My name is Mr. Harrison," he said, "and I think you deserve to know why I'm here." Daniel's hands tightened into fists. "Did I do something wrong?" A smile tugged at the corners of Mr. Harrison's mouth, but his eyes remained serious. "Quite the opposite. Yesterday, you gave away your only meal to 2 people who needed it more than you. That couple happens to be very dear friends of mine." Daniel's stomach twisted. The memory of the old couple flooded back, their frail hands, their grateful tears. He had walked away thinking the world would never notice. Yet here was proof that someone had. Mr. Harrison continued, "They told me how you didn't hesitate, how you gave without expecting anything in return. That kind of compassion is rare. And it struck me, Daniel, because kindness like yours has the power to change lives." Daniel swallowed hard. He wasn't sure how to respond. Acts of kindness were normal to him, not extraordinary. Why would a man like this care? Then Mr. Harrison pulled something from his coat pocket, a folded envelope, thick and crisp. He placed it on the table, sliding it toward Daniel. "This," he said softly, "is the beginning of an opportunity. But it's only the beginning." Daniel stared at the envelope, afraid to touch it. He could feel his sister's wide eyes fixed on it too. Questions swirled in his head. Why him? Why now? And what could possibly be inside that envelope? Sensing his hesitation, Mr. Harrison leaned forward. "I grew up not too different from you, Daniel. Poor neighborhood, no father. A mother who worked herself to the bone just to keep us fed. People looked past us, assumed we'd never amount to much. But one person saw me. One person gave me a chance." He paused, his voice lowering. "That chance changed my life forever. And when I saw what you did yesterday, I knew it was time for me to do the same for someone else." Daniel's throat tightened. His mother's exhausted face flashed in his mind. The night she came home with blisters on her hands. The way she smiled despite her pain. Could this really be happening? Before he could speak, Mr. Harrison rose from a chair. "I'm not here to make promises or hand out charity. I'm here because I see potential. You gave when you had nothing. And that tells me you're the kind of person who deserves everything." He adjusted his cufflinks, glanced once more around the room, and then looked directly at Daniel. "Think carefully before you open that envelope. What's inside could change your life, but it will also test you, because the world won't always reward kindness. Sometimes it punishes it. The question is, will you keep giving, even when it costs you?" With that, he turned and walked toward the door. His polished shoes echoed against the worn floorboards. each step a reminder of the vast distance between Daniel's world and his. At the doorway, he stopped. "Tell your mother I'll return tomorrow. And Daniel, don't be afraid of change. Sometimes, it's the only way forward." The door closed behind him. Silence filled the room. Daniel's sister stared at the envelope as if it held a secret treasure. His hands trembled as he picked it up, feeling the weight of the paper, the possibilities hidden inside. He hadn't opened it yet, but deep down he knew nothing would ever be the same again. And for the first time, he wondered, had his small sacrifice been the beginning of something far greater than he could imagine? Daniel sat at the edge of his bed, the envelope still in his hands. He had held it for hours, staring at it as though it might reveal its secrets on its own. His mother had come home late from her shift, her eyes tired but still soft with warmth when she noticed the stranger's card and the envelope. She didn't say much, only placed her hand on Daniel's shoulder and whispered, "Sometimes blessings come in disguise. Don't be afraid." The weight of her words stayed with him as the night passed slowly. Every creak of the old apartment, every whistle of wind through the broken window, only heightened the tension. Daniel's little sister had fallen asleep, clutching a blanket too thin for the season, while his mother's exhausted breaths came steady from the other room. He knew they needed help. But could he trust this man, this Mr. Harrison, who appeared out of nowhere? Finally, with trembling fingers, Daniel tore the envelope open. Inside was a check. Not just any check, but one with a number so large he couldn't even process it at first. His hand shook violently, his eyes widening as he reread it again and again. It was real. Enough to pay off debts, enough to move his family out of the crumbling building, enough to change everything. But there was more. Along with the check was a letter. Daniel unfolded the crisp paper and began to read. "Daniel, kindness is the rarest currency in the world, and you've already proven you are rich beyond measure. This check is not a gift, it is a test. How you choose to use it will reveal who you truly are. Tomorrow, I will return. If you squander it, our paths will end here. But if you use it wisely, not just for yourself, but to lift others the way you did with that meal, then you will find that this is only the beginning of what I can offer you. Think carefully. The world is watching, even when you think it isn't." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. A test. His heart pounded as he clutched the letter. The promise of change was there, but so was the weight of responsibility. The check in his hands wasn't just money, it was a mirror, reflecting the kind of person he would become. Sleep was impossible that night. His mind raced with possibilities, moving into a safer neighborhood, buying warm clothes for his sister, paying for his mother's medicine. But then another thought crept in. What about the other kids at school who came hungry? What about the neighbors who worked double shifts and still couldn't pay rent? The thought of helping them filled him with both hope and fear. Could he really carry that kind of burden? By morning, Daniel's decision was still not clear, but the knock at the door returned, right on time. The sound echoed through the apartment, louder than it had the day before. His mother looked at him, her eyes steady, her face calm. "Go on," she urged. Daniel opened the door. Mr. Harrison stood there again, polished as before, his eyes sharp but kind. He looked directly at Daniel's hands. The envelope was gone, replaced by the letter, folded neatly and held close to his chest. "Well?" Harrison asked, his voice steady but probing. "Did you find your answer?" Daniel's voice wavered at first, but then grew stronger. "I don't think money is the answer. Not by itself. But if it can help me take care of my family, and if it can help me make sure no one else goes hungry the way I did, then yes, I want to use it. Not just for us. For others too." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, slowly, a smile spread across Mr. Harrison's face. Not the polite kind, but a genuine, relieved smile. He placed a firm hand on Daniel's shoulder. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say," Harrison replied. "Because what's coming next will require more than just money. It will require heart. And Daniel, you've already proven you have that." The tension broke like a dam. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. But for the first time in years, they weren't from fear or hunger. They were from hope. And in that moment, Standing in the doorway of his crumbling apartment, he realized. His small act of kindness had not just changed the lives of two strangers. It had changed his own fate forever. Daniel's decision was only the beginning. When Mr. Harrison heard his words that morning, he didn't hand him more money right away. Instead, he gave him something greater: trust. Then prove it, Harrison said, pressing another sealed envelope into Daniel's hands. This is a chance to show me, and the world, what you can do with opportunity. I'll be watching, but more importantly, so will everyone else. And just like that, the millionaire was gone again, leaving Daniel standing in the doorway with trembling hands and a pounding heart. Inside the envelope was not just another check, but access to a scholarship fund, mentorship opportunities, and the promise of guidance if Daniel stayed true to his word. The weeks that followed were unlike anything Daniel had ever known. For the first time, he and his family had food on the table every night. His mother no longer had to skip meals so her children could eat. His little sister smiled more, her cheeks rounder, her eyes brighter. The apartment, though still small and old, felt lighter, filled with laughter instead of silence. But Daniel remembered Harrison's challenge: this isn't just about you. So, instead of spending recklessly, he started small. With Harrison's guidance, he bought extra groceries and left them quietly at the doors of neighbors he knew were struggling. He paid for school supplies for classmates who came with empty backpacks. He even donated part of the money to a local shelter, where he had seen children his age waiting in long lines for food. Each time he gave, the memory of that elderly couple returned, their frail hands, their grateful tears. He hadn't just fed them. He had set into motion a ripple of kindness that was still growing. Months passed. Daniel's name began to spread through the neighborhood. People whispered about the boy who had nothing, yet gave everything. Teachers noticed his newfound confidence, his willingness to help others, his refusal to let success make him arrogant. Neighbors began to rally around him, inspired to give what little they could, not just money, but time, food, care, and love. And all the while, Harrison watched from a distance. He didn't interfere, didn't control. He simply observed, waiting to see what kind of man Daniel was becoming. Then, one evening, as the sun set over the city, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson, Harrison returned. He didn't come with cars or guards this time. He came alone, carrying nothing but a smile and pride in his eyes. "You've done well," he said, standing in Daniel's doorway once again. "Better than I ever hoped." Daniel's mother stood beside him, tears in her eyes. His sister clutched his hand tightly, beaming. Harrison stepped closer. "You've proven that kindness isn't weakness. It's strength. And now, Daniel, I want to do more than test you. I want to invest in you. Education, resources, connections, everything you need to build a future not just for yourself, but for everyone you touch." The words hit Daniel like a tidal wave. He wasn't just being given charity. He was being given a chance to lead, to inspire, to change the world. Years later, people would look back on that moment as the turning point. The poor boy who once gave up his only meal had become a man known for his generosity, his leadership, and his refusal to forget where he came from. With Harrison's mentorship, Daniel graduated from top schools, created programs to fight hunger, and built opportunities for children like him who once went to bed hungry. But Daniel never told the story as one about money. He told it as one about choice, about the moment in a park, when a hungry boy looked at a starving couple and decided to give instead of take. Because in that moment, Daniel learned a truth the world often forgets. Wealth is not measured by what you keep, but by what you give. And so, the story that began with a single sandwich ended with entire communities being fed. The boy who once felt invisible became a light others followed. And the act of kindness no one was supposed to notice became the seed of a legacy that outlived him. Viewers, the takeaway is simple yet life-changing. Every choice matters. Even the smallest gesture, sharing a meal, offering a smile, lending a hand, can set into motion events you may never see, but that can change lives in ways you could never imagine. Daniel didn't know who was watching that day. He didn't know the frail couple he helped were connected to someone powerful. He didn't know his empty stomach would lead to a full life. He just acted with compassion. And that compassion became his legacy. So ask yourself, what small act of kindness can you offer today? You never know who's watching. You never know what doors it might open tomorrow.